It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer. Today we've got a beer from Horsforth Brewery, and this is their 5x5 West Coast IPA, 5.5% ABV, 440ml can. Oh, I'm looking at, there's a K there, one of my favourite breweries of 2021. Good old Kirkstall. They brew some terrific beer, Kirkstall. This should be a really good collaboration then, Horsforth and Kirkstall. What I love about Kirkstall Brewery is the fact that their cans are so unassuming. They're so kind of, it just looks like a normal can of, you know, like if it was a bottled ale sitting in the bottled ale shelf. Their cans, they haven't got any craziness on the front of the can. They've got their Kirkstall badge, and there's a little bit of purple or a bit of brown, but you open the beer and it's incredible. It's incredible beer. Really big fan of Kirkstall Brewery. But we won't just talk about Kirkstall Brewery, of course. This is Horsforth Brewery. This has been brewed at Horsforth Brewery in Leeds. 440ml can. Let's get the beer out into a glass, see what we get. A little bit of smoke on the can opening. A little bit of a liquid made its way to the top, but you know, we'd rather have a full can of beer than a half empty can of beer, wouldn't we? Look at this. Look at this. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. 1 to 2 finger white head. Lovely kind of marmalade-y look to the beer. It's a slightly darker looking pale ale than... Actually, if I was talking about American pale ale, if you poured a glass of Sierra Nevada, then it's probably going to look like this. So, slightly contradicting myself. Yes, this looks like an American pale ale. But in the UK, especially canned craft beer, they try and find the lightest malt that they possibly can these days. So this might be a true or a better reflection of an actual American pale ale. It's certainly got that kind of classic American pale ale stroke IPA colour to it. There's a little bit of carbonation in the glass. I'm going to stop the review quickly and say thank you very much to the wonderful, where have I put it, Bingley Brew Club. Check out Bingley Brew Club. There's a link in the description box of our video. If you want to pause the video quickly, you can see all of the different breweries on the back of this beer mat that Bingley Brew Club have on their website. So lots of great familiar names on there, all from the Leeds, Bradford, Bingley area of Yorkshire. That's what they specialise in. Wonderful. So, back with the review. Let's get the aroma. Oh, it's got a kind of sherbety kind of zestiness to it. Oh, it's really interesting. I'm picking up little touches of licorice. Only the smallest amount of licorice, but spices and pepperiness. Lemon, orange peel. It smells really good. Let's dive in. Cheers, everybody. That is interesting. That is really interesting. It's really soft and pillowy. I want to have one or two more tastes before I make my kind of. I want to make sure what I'm getting here with this beer, rather than having one taste and then having a stab at it. I want to make sure I'm right here. As I rock the beer back and forth, you can see the carbonation chasing the head of the glass. But this is probably the most balanced West Coast IPA. Calling it pale as West Coast IPA. Whoa, right. It's really like there's lots going on, but I'm struggling to pull it apart. I'm struggling to find much in this beer. It's extremely drinkable. You do get a little bit of bitterness on the back end, but this is no old school like Stone Ruination West Coast IPA. It's drinking like an American pale ale. It's drinking like a Sierra Nevada pale ale. It's a bit of orange in here. There's a bit of the malt coming through. Carbonation pushes the beer around the inside of the mouth, releases more of that flavour. It's drinkable, it's refreshing. The bitterness now as I'm drinking it is kind of longing. It's definitely kind of getting there. It's a really confusing one, because if you just handed me this in the pub, and for whatever reason I don't read many books or newspapers, but let's just take myself back 20 years ago. Let's say I had a newspaper in front of me and somebody handed this to me and I sat there reading a newspaper article. It would be like you'd have a sip of it and you go, yeah, that'll do. And then you get back to your article. It's not enough that you would go, oh, right, pause the article, pause what I was reading, let's concentrate on this beer now, let's concentrate on the flavours, let's concentrate on what's going on with this beer. It's not enough of a distraction that it would distract me from my newspaper article, or this day and age reading my iPad in the pub, in the corner, out of the way of everybody. It's weirdly unassuming. It's weirdly just, I would go as far as saying it's drinking like a golden ale. It's drinking more of a golden ale slash American pale ale without much bitterness. It's when I think of West Coast IPA, I've just mentioned it now, I think of Stone Ruination. I think of like the big American, back in the day, they would smack you round the chops with massive amounts of bitterness. I know beers change. I know they're even talking about West Coast style of America beer changing, where it's not really that bitter anymore. But for me, what I find confusing in the beer industry is, if it's not a West Coast style IPA, or if they've changed the style of West Coast IPA, then change the name of the whole style. Call it an East Coast IPA or a New England IPA. A West Coast IPA should be a West Coast IPA. It should be that kind of really smashing, bitter, in your face, raw, like, whoa. This is not that. It's a decent enough beer. There's no off flavours, there's nothing wrong with it, but also there's nothing magical about it. It's not kind of like making me stone the crows, you know, dancing round my bar type beers that I sometimes get. It's not doing that. And back in the day, a West Coast IPA would have done that. It really would have done that. It would have been kind of like, yeah, this is great. This is really bitter. I think they should change the name. Either change the style, either make it much more bitter, if you're going to call it a West Coast IPA, or change the name. Be bold enough to call it a golden ale. Be bold enough to call it a pale ale. It's definitely not a West Coast IPA. For me anyway, it's not a West Coast IPA. It's not bitter enough. Rating for this one then. Shame really, because I went into it talking about Kirkstall, and I've had a Horsforth beer, they've been terrific, and I wanted to like it, I wanted to love it, but I wouldn't be true to my viewers, would I? If I was like, yeah, this is great. I wouldn't be true to you guys, and it's always about honesty. I've never hidden away from the fact that if a beer's not that great, you know, I'll always be honest, I'll always talk about it, I'll always, you know, it's a 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom. Cheers.